Hi folks, and welcome back to the allotment. It is finally time for another pepper video. It's only the second of this year, if you can believe it. I just haven't found the time to have a proper pepper update this year yet. I did one right at the start of the season back in April, I think. I'll link that and do go and have a look because I really enjoyed that video actually, and it was quite nice kind of setting out what my hopes were for the season and what I was trying to grow. It's not really been the best season for the peppers, but I think all things considered, I'm still pretty happy. And there's a few new ones that I'm growing this year that I'm really excited to taste for the first time, so might be getting a little bit spicy, we'll see. But let's have a look first in the greenhouse, and then I'll probably start bringing the peppers out individually and showing them off so that I don't cook in the greenhouse. Last year, this greenhouse was ridiculous, okay? It was too much, to be honest. I crammed so many peppers in here, and the main difference this year, not only is there slightly fewer plants, they are in much smaller pots. And I spoke about that in one of the earlier updates, but basically I just didn't get them potted on at the right time, and I thought it was probably a safer bet to leave them in these 2.5 litre pots instead of putting them into kind of 7 litre, 10 litre pots, because they're a very slow growing plant, peppers, and I didn't want it to get to this time of the season and they'd only just be starting to set fruit. But you can see there's some at the back there looking really good, and then there's a few on the benches. There's not nearly as many as normal. I've only got 11 plants on there, and I dread to think how many I had last year. I've really reduced it, hoping that that would kind of allow them some better light levels, but also it's just made it much easier for me to get in, to water, to harvest, and do all that good stuff. And I'll do what I did in that earlier season video, and I'll kind of go through these in order of Scoville and heat, just tell you a little bit about them all, some of the challenges I've had and how they're doing. Now, one problem that I'm gonna have with this video is that I've not chosen the best time to show off these peppers. You can see this is my Padrón, and there's one little green pepper on here. But that's not to say that this hasn't given me some nice harvests. And this is a really mild pepper. It's quite nice, but the more time I spend growing chili peppers, the less bothered I am about the non-spicy ones. You know, this is pretty much a sweet pepper. You can have them green, you're meant to have them green, but most of mine I've let go to red, and they're just really nice, really super mild, quite pleasant. But most of my sweet peppers are sadly in here in the compost bay. You can see there's also an awful lot of apples in here, but that's a story for another time. I can just see there's a little bit of a chili plant in here. I had, I don't know, maybe 3 kind of sweet peppers. There was one as well, my mystery pepper, which turned out to be what I'm pretty sure was a poblano, a rogue poblano seed from last year. And I'm not very good at growing sweet peppers. You know, they have very different requirements from the chili peppers. I don't give them enough water. They don't really get what they need. And for me, sweet peppers are just more trouble than they're worth. That being said, this plant does still look quite happy, quite healthy, and I'm gonna see how it goes. All of them do look a little thirsty today, but I have given them a drink and they'll bounce back. I do like to kind of keep my chilies a little on the drier side, and that's one of the reasons that the bell peppers and the sweet peppers just do not work, because they don't like that so much. One thing I was interested to see this year is just how big the plants would get in these relatively small 2.5 litre pots, and this one, the bishop's crown, has really started to branch out. It's just got this straight stem, nothing on it, and then into 2, and just looks a bit weird, you know, it looks a bit weird. Some really interesting pods on here, shaped like a bishop's crown, hence the name. I've never tried this, so let's take one of these pods and find out whether or not it's hot. The shoe range for this was massive. It went from 5,000 to 30,000, so it could be anywhere. Let's find out. Disappointingly, the smell is quite vegetal. It's quite green. So it might be that this one wasn't quite ripe. I probably should have worn gloves for this. It's crisp, it's fresh, quite sweet. It's not too green, it's quite fresh, like I say, but kind of zesty, very mild. Ooh, it's got that kind of, that slight citrus. Not like lemon, but like that slight tang, like apple. It's more like a green apple, actually. Well, you know, pleasantly surprised by this. Just a little bit of heat at the end there. Exploded up into my nostrils. Top tip for you, if you didn't know this about peppers. A lot of the heat is concentrated towards the stem and the placenta. People say the seeds are hot. The seeds themselves have no capsaicin. They're not spicy at all, but they are right by the placenta, which is where a lot of the capsaicin is. So if you're ever trying a hot pepper and you just nibble a bit of the end, it won't be very hot. You've got to really get into it. And that's quite nice, actually. Quite pleasantly surprised by the Bishop's Crown. Now, take a look at this weird looking son of a gun. This is so tall. It's almost leggy. I don't know why it's grown like this, but it really has just gone for it. It's just gone upright, and then it's finally branched up here into two. And this has got quite a few green pods on it, not crazy amounts, but this one, really interesting. This is the Numex Suave. Numex means it comes from the University of New Mexico, where they breed lots and lots of interesting peppers. And this one is meant to have all the flavour and the fruitiness of a habanero, a kind of chinense flavour, with very little of the heat. And this one, so far in the greenhouse, has given me 0 ripe peppers, and it's just grown very strangely. But I do have some peppers in the back garden at home, and a little while ago on Instagram I did post a video of me trying one of these peppers, because the ones in the back garden, the growth form looks quite different actually, but they have put out some ripe peppers. Really interesting. Just a bit weird. This one's really weird, man. Now, what's going on here? This is all a bit weird, isn't it? These are 3 Bangalore Whippet's tail plants, right? They are all the same variety. They all look very different. This one, first, is in a much smaller pot. So this is like a kind of, I don't know, a 5-inch pot or something like that. This was actually the first plant I brought up to the greenhouse, and it was a kind of test, you know, just to see, would the peppers be okay? Would they be able to survive the night? It was fine. I never potted it up, I just left it, and I kind of wanted to see, you know, I'm always interested to see what kind of crop you can get from a really small pot. And this one has done really well. I haven't taken any peppers from here, but this is quite a good size, this little kind of 5-inch pot. You know, if you want to try a chili for the first time, you want to give it a good go, and you still want to get a good number of peppers, but you don't want to have to commit to it or anything. I think this is a really good size. But these 2 plants here are in the same size pot, and they look drastically different. This one on the left, you can see is just dramatically smaller than this one over on the right. But if you saw last week's garden update, this one on the right is the Bangalore Whippet's tail that's got some weird fruit. It's got some really weird looking stuff going on. There's lots of kind of wrinkled peppers, lots of small peppers. Something just isn't quite right. Whereas the ones on here are just amazing. They all look really healthy, good size. What is going on here? I have absolutely no idea. It could be something to do with the seed, or just the genetics of the plant, or it could be something to do with what's going on in the soil. I really don't know, but let's take one of these off and have a little taste. I'm taking one from the good plant that looks good, because Bangalore Whippet's tail are meant to have a really good taste. Oh. Oh, not immediately pleasant. Kind of bitter, kind of green. Then it comes through with a more conventional kind of just chili taste. Nothing too distinctive about this. A little bit fruity, not particularly sweet, and kind of on the dry side. And then there's a lot of seeds in here. It's quite dense with seeds. Okay. I was maybe expecting a little more distinctiveness, a little more flair. People kind of rave about this. I'll try a few more as the season goes on. Figure out. Oh. Excuse me. It's not particularly hot at all. It's quite mild. Maybe 8,000, but it just that one just hit me a bit wrong. Yeah, weird. Before I talk about this next one, I did just want to mention harvests so far. There's a tomato in here. Get out of here. Not been great, you know, the harvest so far. I have been taking some from the back garden, and I'll show you a little picture. And this is pretty much all of my harvests up till now. There's a few that I've used fresh in cooking, but nothing notable. This next pepper plant, however, is probably the disappointment of the season. This is my Sugar Rush Stripy. And I was really, 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 really excited about this one. It's meant to have this amazing, unique, stripy pattern on it. It's meant to have a really good flavour as well, but for whatever reason, I've seen a lot of people this year, their peppers have just turned red. They look a bit weird, slightly weird, wrinkly shape, but you know, I think it's an early kind of cross, maybe not fully stabilised yet. It takes a little while for peppers to fully stabilise. You see growth structure on this, it just didn't really develop a central leader, it just started going out instead. But that's not the end of the world. There are quite a good number of peppers on here, so I do think it's a quite prolific variety. But let's take this red one off and see how the taste is, because although the stripes aren't here, it might still have a really nice flavour. You see here, quite a good size. It's got a bit of weight to it, you know. These are definitely chunkier peppers, and this is kind of inverted in on itself. So it's lost a bit of size, but let's get it open, see how it looks. Peppers like this that are a bit of a funky shape, it's a good idea to get your knife out. Just make sure you cut in, and you're not going to find anything nasty hidden inside. Look, and in fact, there is something in here. What is that? You might not be able to see it on camera, but just in the folds, there's something in there, some kind of web or something. Here is that little egg sac, so I'm just going to cut that off. I don't know what that belongs to. Smell-wise, once again, that kind of fresh green smell. So I'm a little bit worried it might not be ripe. It's got the sweetness. It's got that Sugar Rush sweetness. Quite hot as well. Immediate little tickle of heat. Not an explosion, but it immediately kind of spreads out. That's nice. One of the things I love about peppers is how different the spice feels. It's really strange, but they all feel quite different, or they can feel quite different. That's very nice, very sweet, very, very sweet. I think that kind of sweetness lends itself to some kind of fresh sauce, you know. Yeah. Very, very similar to a Sugar Rush Long Peach that I grew last year. The Sugar Rush varieties have a really distinctive kind of just explosion of sweetness that is really, really nice. If you can handle heat, I think you'd be okay snacking on this in the greenhouse. Gonna try and grow these again next year, and hopefully I'll get the stripy patterns. Very mild actually, much milder than the Long Peach. Very nice. So now we're starting to get into the slightly more dangerous territory. This one is a Mozambique piri piri plant from Chillichump. The man himself, the chili king, he's started selling seeds this year. And I've got 4 piri piri plants. I've never actually grown piri piri plants before, but they're a really perfect spice level for sauces. But off the plant, I think they are a little hot. But these plants are just some of the most prolific, healthy looking ones I've got. They are loaded with peppers. They are just like scores above the rest of the plants that I've grown this year, you know, and full credit to Chillichump. He's kind of selected these seeds because he's so impressed with the plants. And for the most part, these aren't quite ripe yet. They're loaded with green fruit, which is good because it means I don't have to eat them. But I have just seen there is one ripe fruit on here, so I'm gonna give this one just a little go, we'll see. These kind of African bird's eye, they're just so glossy. They're really beautiful pepper. And they've got that kind of upright, very distinctive, kind of bullet shaped. And I've like I say, I've never grown piri piri. I was gonna say chili chili, which is, you know, what piri piri means. Oh, that smells good. Oh, that just smells like it's loaded with flavour. This is one I should definitely be wearing gloves for. I'm just going to show you inside. You can see there's a lot of seeds in there, so I'm just going to brush some of those off because when you're eating it raw, too many seeds, not too nice. but I don't want to get rid of them all and get rid of the placenta because that's where the heat is and that's where the fun is. Oh, it really is an impressively like fruity, just delicious smelling pepper. It doesn't taste as good as it smells. Immediately there's a bit of a bitter hit. And it tastes, there's a slight taste I can't quite describe, but if you've had a piri piri sauce, I think you'd recognize it. It's very complex, there's a lot going on there. The initial flavor is not particularly pleasant, but it kind of mellows. Quite bitter. I can see why piri piri suits a sauce. There is an amazing kind of complexity there, but I think it likes to be balanced out with other flavors. Quite warm. A builder, that is a... Yeah, the eyes are watering. Yeah, oh wow, that really caught me out actually. It takes a little while till that heat hits. Then it really spreads out. That really caught me out. It's not too bad. I think it will dissipate quite quick, but it's got me moving. Oh wow. Oh, I think it's fading. Yeah, that's quite nice. Quite quick. It kind of builds, it goes, and then it levels out again. Ooh. I love chili peppers. In speaking about the piri piris, I actually, I jumped the queue a bit. I forgot about this one. Still a little warm. This one is a ring of fire. Now, I like to imagine that this is named after the geographical or geological island formation and has nothing to do with anything else. We'll keep it clean, keep it polite. But these plants, I've got one up here in the greenhouse that has done okay, and I've got one in the back garden at home that has done amazingly. A really good pepper for growing outside, apparently. We have had an unseasonably warm summer, but this has just been so prolific. It looks really healthy, lovely dark red pods, and it just started so much earlier than the rest. You know, the Ring of Fire is kind of cayenne based. It's bred to be a bit spicier, and it's clearly also been bred for kind of productivity. I'm really, really impressed with these Ring of Fire plants. I have tasted one of these, not as hot as the piri piri, and delicious. It really took me by surprise. You know, Ring of Fire, thought maybe it had a bit of a reputation for the heat, but no, my goodness, just so sweet. That typical cayenne flavor profile, which I think I was expecting a bit more from the piri piri actually. That tastes so different from a cayenne. A little bit of the smokiness with the piri piri, but cayennes are just sweet and smoky. You know, they're just so good. Really, really lovely pepper. And I think Ring of Fire is going to become a bit of a staple for me because cayennes just, they lack a bit of punch. You know, I like a slightly hotter pepper now. And I just over the moon. Brilliant, brilliant plant. I love it. Really in love with these. Star of the season so far, for sure. 100%. Inside the greenhouse, up next, I've got a few here that I wanted to talk about because they've kind of got some similar issues, really. These are hot peppers. These are some very hot peppers. This one is a paper lantern habanero, which it looks okay. It's got a couple of green pods on it, one little ripe pod down here, and I've taken maybe 3 or 4 off it, you know, so it has put out some fruit. But behind it, I've got a Reaper crossed with a Douglah, and then a Bhut Jolokia as well. And there is barely even any green fruit on here. There is one here, one green pod on the Reaper crossed with a Douglah. I can't see a single pod on the Bhut Jolokia. There's just 1 or 2 little flowers that look like they've set. And that's quite surprising. I mean, the Chinense varieties, much longer time. You know, they take a lot longer to kind of fruit and flower and do all that stuff. But I really thought putting them in the smaller containers, for the most part, would force them to set fruit a bit earlier. I'm on the south coast, so we've still got a while yet, but I am maybe a little disappointed, and I hadn't really noticed until today. Oh, what's that? Ah, this is, okay, so this is a Bhut Jolokia. So we do, at the very least, have one. It doesn't look very Bhut Jolokia-y, though. So we'll see. We'll see how they go. But I thought that was interesting to show off because, yeah, I hadn't really noticed. Now, this one. This is a gorgeous chili plant. Look at the growth form of this one. The leaves could be a little darker, but other than that, I think this looks absolutely gorgeous and terrifying. Equal parts gorgeous and terrifying. This one is a big black mama, a slightly interesting, maybe questionable name. And there's lots I could say about this one, but the most interesting thing, I think, is its productivity. So I've just showed you some of the chinense plants that just haven't really got going. You know, they've been much, much slower. This BBM plant has been putting out pods at a rate of knots. You know, I've got some really, really early harvests from these. I've got another, once again, got a plant in the back garden. I'm too scared to have tried any of these yet. And some of them look terrifying. So the first few pods I've got looked a bit like this one here, which I'm gonna take now. Not particularly attractive, not particularly distinctive, but interestingly quite smooth. You know, and most of the harvests I've taken look like this. But look at this pod. Just look at that. Look at how wrinkled and creased it is. Look at the tail on it. They're called stingers or kind of tails. This thing just looks like it might genuinely kill me if I eat it. There's a couple on here now. You know, something about it, this plant, it's like it kind of changed its mind at some point in the season and went, you know what, I'm gonna have you. I'm gonna have you. It stopped putting out these nice smooth things and instead started on these absolutely horrific looking just, they look horrible. I'm scared. I'm gonna have to try a bit of one of these at some point. But yeah, just what an interesting pepper. I just love it. I love peppers so much. I love talking about them. I just love the variety and, you know, the way they surprise you. There's no other plant quite like it for me. The last one's a good one as well. I forgot to say on the BBM, so I've got the next one here, but the BBM, in terms of Scoville, it's a bit of a mystery, right? So Carolina Reaper is the one everyone knows is the hottest chili pepper in the world. It's a little controversial though, you know, it's very difficult to formally measure, you know, the capsaicin and the heat levels of a pepper. And for a long time, people who really know their stuff have been saying that there are peppers that are hotter out there. Big Black Mama is one of those peppers. There's a guy called Johnny Scoville who is, you know, just, he's built different. I'll link his channel in the description, but he just eats lots of extremely hot peppers. And he very recently had some of the BBMs and said they are one of the hottest peppers he's ever had. And this one in my hands is a 7-pot bubblegum. And there's only one ripe fruit on here. So it looks quite good in terms of growth form and health, I think. Once again, leaves are a little yellow, maybe showing a sign of kind of deficiency of nitrogen, or maybe it needs spray with Epsom salts or something like that. But, you know, I have been feeding these with quite a high potassium feed, you know, to kind of encourage them to set fruit. And there is one, one little pod on here. Well, there's one actual tiny pod. I have had a couple as well. And there's lots of flowers that have, it looks like they have set fruit. But it's a little behind, you know, compared to the BBM especially. End of August, no flowers yet, no fruit yet, growing. A little bit concerned, but not the end of the world. You know, there's still, if we have a nice warm September, there's a lot of time for this to put on good growth. And then they can still be ripening in October, especially in a greenhouse. And because I'm on the south coast, I'm quite lucky with that. But what I was trying to say, I got a bit sidetracked there, is the 7-pot bubblegum is another one that people have said is the hottest pepper they've ever eaten. So Chillichump ate one of these on a live stream, and I think he really regretted it. You know, that guy's used to eating some hot peppers, and he said this one was probably the hottest one he's ever had. So a little bit terrifying. It does this really cool thing that lets you know when it's ripe as well. The kind of calyx turns red. And it's just, I'm really excited and terrified by this one as well. I do just hope we get to see some fruit on here. And I hadn't quite realised the size of some of these plants. Now that I'm picking them up, 2.5 litre pots, you can still get some pretty big chili plants. So 2022's pepper season, it's been a bit of a mixed bag. I'm not really sure how I feel about it, and it's still maybe a little too early to say. I kind of float between it being like quite good despite circumstances and being kind of rubbish compared to last year, you know, but I think the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. I'm kind of lost for words. There's loads and loads that's going on in my mind. And one of the things is just how much I notice during filming a video like this that I hadn't noticed before. And I've said this before, but it's really worth you as a viewer, going and doing this in your garden. Even if you don't do it, you know, don't put it on YouTube. Just going around with your phone, filming a little video as if it was going to go on YouTube. And I bet you'll notice something new about your garden, or you'll take it in a slightly different light. And I always notice so much more when I'm making a video than I would if I was just coming up and doing a bit of weeding or feeding or watering or whatever. So that's my kind of, the one takeaway from this video, I think, if nothing else. The other thing, I got a bloody mosquito bite earlier as I was watering. I put my head in the water bath. Mosquito bit me. Anyway, yeah. In terms of the peppers themselves, I'm amazed at the size of them. For such small pots, I was expecting them to be much smaller. And I am slightly surprised that some of the Chinense varieties still haven't set fruit. Whether that's an issue with the feeding regime or something like that, I'm not sure. But some of the peppers are looking amazing, and I know I'm still going to get some really, really good harvests. So all in all, I'm feeling very positive. But there's still a few question marks that we'll see as the season goes on. I really hope you've enjoyed watching. Thank you ever so much for watching. I really do mean that. It still kind of blows me away that there's so many of you who do enjoy this stuff. But let me know in the comments if you're growing peppers, how they're doing, because it's been a weird year. You know, I've had lots of people saying it's been a weird year for peppers, and a few people saying that they wish they'd put theirs in smaller pots as well. So do let me know how your year is going in the comments below, and hopefully I'll see you again next time.